Ok, ha sido un tremendo día. Estamos muy contentos por la asistencia, estamos muy contentos que Krista, Stefan, la gente de Digital Intelligence nos haya podido acompañar en este evento. Y queremos hacer esta breve mesa redonda para cerrar el día, para resolver las dudas, para proyectar las estrategias. Y eh, básicamente quiero comenzar con alguna pregunta del público para ya luego ir desarrollando la conversación. ¿Alguien tiene alguna consulta que alguien quisiera romper el hielo? Ah, permiso, perdón.
Bueno, gracias por la oportunidad de poder participar en este tipo de eventos. Nosotros representamos quizás a una parte diferente a la del resto. Somos de una organización internacional, trabajamos en Naciones Unidas y estamos acercándonos a todo este panorama, aunque internamente lo venimos trabajando o profesionalmente lo venimos trabajando, estamos tratando de abrir la mente en nuestros jefes y en nuestros compañeros, de que este es un mundo que va más allá de la parte empresarial y que tenemos que involucrarnos para poder llegar también a nuestra audiencia. Al respecto quería pedirles a ustedes si nos podían aconsejar de cómo podemos encarar ese camino para poder llevar este tipo de soluciones a un tipo de cliente o a un tipo de organización que no tiene un fin netamente comercial.
And I think that I talked a little bit in my talk earlier about having like one big win or one way of showing that a small effort was worth it, and that's a great way to then. Sorry, I'm like hearing myself in my ear, but in a different language. That was really distracting. So taking one small way of showing impact, whether that's you ran a quick test or you were able to do an analysis on a single page to show what you could potentially get out of that. Like you found that clearly a lot of people were clicking on this one area of the site and maybe it was broken, and that's a big win for the business to know that there's something that you can do with that data. So keep showing small little wins, and that's a great way to build excitement and impact within an organization to then get more investment for the future. But I definitely feel you, and as I mentioned, we did a rent before you buy strategy where we started with one full-time person and just proved out that use case over time. And when I left that team, we had 5 full-time people running an analytics and optimization program.
So one thing that I would add to that, especially the note that you had at the end when there is no commercial objective, and you know I always wondered, being in marketing performance measurement, having no real sales or commercial metric is a really hard situation to be in, right? But then one thing that I didn't know, which was really exciting to me when I joined Google, is actually how we optimize the google.com landing page. So when you come to google.com, right, what you probably don't know is that every user that comes to google.com is part of an A/B experiment, right, with a very high likelihood. And what we're doing is that every little change, every tiny little change of color, of position, gets basically tested. Now, that's fine, but what is the success metric for someone on google.com? We're not selling anything, right? You can argue that being in the results page for a long time is a bad thing, as much as you can argue that being there for a short time is a bad thing, right? So there's a whole team of people whose only purpose is to come up with a meaningful metric of what it means to have a successful time or a good time on google.com, right? And I think that's something that we just need to wake up to, is the fact that, yes, you will have these challenges of coming up with a metric that your leadership cares about, but not having one is not an option. And it will take, in some cases, a lot of effort to to come up with a suitable metric that you can use for the tests and for the optimization. But that is not an optional exercise, right? And I think that's really what I would try and show is that, you know, Google invests again. This team is big. Like, this is a lot of headcount that we spend on just that one metric, right? Just to get that one website optimized. So I think, you know, for many businesses, that would mean to spend some time and effort to find such a metric when it's a non-profit type situation.
¿Una pregunta adicional del público? Yo quiero preguntarles a ustedes que trabajan en un equipo de alto nivel, ¿cuál creen ustedes que es el secreto para crear el equipo soñado?
So for me personally, I get asked this question a lot, and I think it depends on if you're talking about the dream team of analytics or the dream team of testing. But I think kind of an underlying quality that you should look for is somebody who, above all else, and I said this earlier twice, I think, is, for me, it's passion. So when I came into my first role at Google, it was a really, really big role. There was so much work to do, and I had no help. And if it wasn't something that I was passionate about and that I really enjoyed doing and being creative with, I would have failed very quickly, and they would have regretted even trying to invest in an analytics organization. So I think finding somebody who has a passion for what they're doing, an interest in the industry, and an interest and a deep desire to keep learning and expanding their skill set, whether that be studying up on some code and becoming more technical, or if you're already technical, learning to work with the business more, and just continually learning and growing. I think that's kind of the most important factor. And then just really specifically, if you're talking about who is that rock star that you want to hire for a testing team in particular, I would actually say you want a really skilled digital analyst, more so than somebody who has a stats background or who studied A/B testing specifically. Because to run a really good testing program, I think that you need to have somebody who's going to really dig into the data set and understand where there is room to optimize, where there's room to grow, and what the site data is telling you before you even go down the path of starting to test.
So I think these were all really good answers. One good definition that I heard at one point for that passion component was people who care, right? Like, you want to work with people who care. Like, someone spots that there is something that they can do to improve things. They actually care enough, you know, to work on it, to pick it up, right? And I think that, you know, having been in multiple industries and having worked in some analyses, data analyses capacity in multiple industries, I think, you know, it really goes to show that in this specific field, probably more than any other field, but it's also a time thing in my opinion, it's more and more a mix of skills that makes the winners, and not just one specific skill that helps you move forward. So to the point of like having a really skilled digital analyst, you'll need some stats knowledge, but it's not the one thing you need. You need some business knowledge, but it's not the one thing you need, right? You need some technical knowledge, but it's not the one thing. And I think there you really need to look into finding a role or an individual that can span across multiple roles and satisfy that in a way that they can actually deliver some concrete value, right? And you know, that can be in form of spreadsheets, that can be in form of learning themselves, you know, Google Analytics and starting to upload some custom dimensions to run a 2 weeks long report that really shows, you know, how things are moving in the company. But I feel that the mix of skill is what we need to watch out for, and not sort of like just to focus on single skills.
May I ask a question? Which are the necessary skills for a professional to be a good professional working with Google Analytics as a user of the Google Analytics platform?
You need to take every single Google Analytics Academy course. Definitely. So that's an interesting question, and I mentioned this in speaking to the team here over lunch yesterday, and what kind of really was an interesting concept to me was that there's a team in Germany, a group of Google Analytics partners in Germany, and what they set out to do is basically they sat down and they defined the job definition of a digital analyst. So basically they said, look, in our market, if you want to learn a job, right, you can go to university or you can train a job. And they said, well, you know, how does a curriculum look like for a digital analyst? And they basically built that from scratch. And they're using a lot of the work that we're having done on that the EDU team has done for Google Analytics, obviously. If I would add 2 more things there, it's really, or actually, you know, maybe 3 things. It's a technical skill, right? When we go measurement protocol, data import, comma separated, like this is all database knowledge kind of at its core. So technical knowledge is definitely helpful. I'd say the business knowledge is absolutely relevant, right? For you to be passionate about something, you need to see the value that it generates on that side. And then, you know, some sort of, I wouldn't call it stats knowledge, but there was a lot of questions today, throughout the day I felt about how can I convince my leadership that what I'm doing is good? How can I empower myself, right, to show that this is relevant? And what's really underlying to all of the testing is that it is a sophisticated and robust methodology that delivers a metric that people can stand by and can make decisions by, right? And so some form of stats knowledge that gives you credibility, right? And that you know that the method that you chose is credible, you know, can go miles when it comes to actually selling your results and your role within an organization. That would be my 3. I covered it.
Hola. ¿Aló? Easy. Quería preguntar en qué está el SEO hoy día y cuál el SEO y con respecto al SEO del futuro, qué es lo que viene hacia adelante, eso.
SEO como posicionamiento.
Sí, como posicionamiento orgánico. No sé si alguien me puede contestar.
So I think the question is around what has happened in the past with SEO optimization, maybe keyword, organic keyword data in Google Analytics, and what is our solution going forward? Does that cover it? Maybe? Yeah, okay. So you guys probably all know that Google encrypted search in, I think it was October 2011, 2012, and that had a dramatic impact on the analytics industry. At the time, I was an analyst. I wasn't even working at Google. I said, curse you, Google, that there went all of my good keyword data. How am I supposed to know what people are searching for and coming to my website for? I agree with all of you when you're nodding your heads. Yes, I feel that pain. It was a big pain, and it still is. It's not something that in analytics we have an answer for these days. There are ways that you can get more information through, like, what's the next? Is that what it's called now? The old webmaster tool is now called Google Search Console. You can authenticate more directories and kind of do some workarounds to try to capture more keywords there, but it's not tied to analytics. And so then the next step of that is, well, how do we evolve the way that we're looking at data and evaluating our users that doesn't necessarily depend on the keywords that they're coming from organically? You can do that with site search. So if you guys have a search box on your website, turning on site search is super easy. It's literally a checkbox and making sure you have your query parameter for that set up in your admin settings. And that's a wealth of data that people are actually searching for on your website. So it's even more relevant than a lot of organic search terms. But in terms of what's coming in the future with SEO, I mean, it's kind of a black box. SEO in general is kind of a black box, right? Nobody knows what the full Google formula is for that, how sites rank, what we're going to do with encrypted search going forward. I mean, the industry has followed in our footsteps, and every search provider these days encrypts their search. So yeah, I think that's kind of the search terms and the SEO answer, but I don't know if you have any more.
No, I think that's absolutely right. There's one thing that I would add, but this is a very specific thing, so I don't want to derail that a little bit. Like, there is one answer that we started to look into for advertisers specifically, and that's the cross effect between your organic listings and your paid search effectiveness. And so that has to do with incrementality testing. Incrementality testing is a whole area by itself. And you know, I work on some of the products there, and they're all very young and they're all, you know, in very early stages. But incrementality testing ultimately would mean to be able to answer some of the questions that are around how many clicks that I receive from my paid search are actually net new. I would have not received them through my organic listings, right? It's a question today that's pretty hard to answer, even though, you know, you integrate all the data, you'd have full visibility in your organic click data. You'd still not necessarily know how many of those clicks you would recover through organic list, how many of your paid clicks you would recover through organic listings, and that's a question that we're trying to answer more and more through a set of features around incrementality. But that's really early stages, and again, it's like a very specific question in that field.
Sí. Bueno, pasa que el posicionamiento SEO tiene que ver mucho con la visibilidad del sitio web y con la salud del sitio web. Entonces, la mejor manera de mirar esto es hacer un sitio web que está hecho a prueba del futuro, a prueba de los cambios que vienen en el futuro y que probablemente significan que hay información que va a desaparecer. Tal vez en algún momento desaparecerá Google Search Console, ex Webmaster Tools, y ya no vamos a poder tomar información desde esa herramienta. Entonces, ¿de dónde vamos a tomar información? ¿Qué nos sirve la cantidad de visitas de una página? ¿Qué nos sirve en ese caso? Mientras el sitio web esté bien hecho, bien construido, sea mobile first, que ahora es la tendencia en el fondo, los sitios que no son móviles en el tiempo van a desaparecer de los resultados de búsqueda móviles, y esto es nuevo, esto es de abril de este año. Por lo tanto, piensan qué va a venir en el futuro, cuando la tecnología sea vestible, cuando Google esté en nuestros anteojos y todo lo que veamos sean globitos encima de la gente. ¿Cómo vamos a hacer posicionamiento en esa época? Tenemos que construir los sitios web pensando en el futuro, y para eso tenemos que volver prácticamente a las raíces de cuando se construyó Internet, cuando se hizo el lenguaje HTML, y que es lo más básico, hacerlo simple.
Hi, again from United Nations. I have two questions. One very simple is, when are you planning to have your academy courses certified again for people? And the other question is the other way round that he said about convincing our leadership. We also have at United Nations the challenge to empower our internal clients. We work at an organization, the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, who have 500 staff members, and our internal clients, web clients, are more or less 30, which are economists, sociologists, anthropologists, and we need to set up a governance mechanism to decentralize our metrics. So, you as advocate from Google Analytics, I would like to ask to listen to your recommendations of web practices regarding that. Thank you.
Great. So I've got answers for both of your questions, hopefully. So the first question about the Analytics Academy courses, this is feedback that we get constantly. We've ran the courses, each course that we've run, we have 5 courses now, ran for 6 to 7 weeks. And during that time, the course was live. The instructor was in the course forum was taking questions, we had people moderating that, we did Q&A sessions, and it's a lot of work to keep it live. And our platform that we run it on didn't allow or hasn't allowed at the time or until now to keep it live forever. But we are working on a solution for this. I can't give you timelines, but it's looking good for hopefully near-term future to open up all of our courses that will be able to get certificates anytime you want to go in and take them. So that's very exciting. And we're also always working on new courses, so that's also very exciting. To your question about how do you basically democratize data within an organization, how do you make it visible and either teach people how to pull the data themselves or give them that data so that they can easily consume it. One of my favorite things to kind of solve this is actually using the Google Analytics API and either the GA Sheets add-on. It's a thing that you can add into Google Sheets to connect to the API and pull data into Google Spreadsheets. Or before we came out with that, I used Supermetrics a lot, which is another connector, if anybody's used that. But basically what that does is it allows you to build out your reports, build out a beautiful dashboard in Google Spreadsheets, and it refreshes daily or hourly or however often you set the API to refresh. And that way you can just send that spreadsheet link out to anyone in your organization. So we had a short link in my old business, and we made a dashboard for each business line using the GA Sheets add-on and Google Sheets. And everybody knew that they could go to their specific business's short link and always see updated metrics on their business. And they could change the date range, and we had various drop-downs for the referring channel or different metrics that people might want to slice and dice by. They could do that themselves. But what was great about it was we controlled kind of the overall look and feel and data in the dashboard, but they were able to access it whenever they wanted. You can also do something similar with just GA dashboards. So in the user interface, you can create some shared dashboards with the metrics that you think are important for each business or each different area, and make sure that people have access to that. But I think the easiest access issue and way to kind of build out the scalable reporting is through the API and Google Spreadsheets.
¿Alguna otra consulta? Adelante.
Hola. Me gustaría saber cuál es su postura acerca del ghost spam. ¿Y qué es lo que Google Analytics hará en el futuro sobre ello?
So that's a great question. We've gotten it a lot in the last many months. And we're very aware of the issue, obviously, and we are working on our own scalable solutions for that. So kind of stay tuned as we start to roll those out, hopefully soon. But until we do get more of those built into the product, there are things that you as a end user can do. So first, definitely make sure that you have the spiders and bots filtering checked in your admin settings. But then above that, there's been a couple of really great industry bloggers who have created different segments and filters that you could use in your profiles to make sure that you're taking away a lot of that bad spam. Until further notice, that's kind of what we can do right now.
¿Alguna otra consulta? Yo me gustaría hacerle una consulta a Daniel porque, bueno, él es nuestro consultor que le toca hacer las implementaciones, sacar conclusiones y muchas veces llevárselas al cliente. Quiero que nos cuentes un poco cuál es la impresión, la sensación que tienen los clientes cuando le llevamos más información que solo las visitas, page view y tasa de rebote. Es decir, cuando profundizamos la data, importamos datos, hacemos medición de los tiempos de decaimiento, etc.
Sí, bueno, la primera impresión es ¿por qué hacen esto? Efectivamente, que en el fondo es algo que no nos han pedido que hagamos, pero que nosotros hacemos porque es parte de nuestra labor. Y el resultado es ojos súper abiertos y ¿cómo no sabía esto antes? ¿Cómo esto no estaba disponible? ¿Por qué nadie me lo dijo? ¿Por qué nadie me dijo que esto era posible? Por ejemplo, usar la data demográfica, crear segmentos para filtrar data demográfica, en función de conversiones, usuarios móviles. Hay tantas cosas que se pueden hacer en Analytics y que efectivamente la mayoría de los de los clientes saben hacer a partir simplemente de lo que ellos conocían como usuarios y usuarios únicos, que ahora son sesiones y usuarios únicos, y no pasaban de ahí. Y después tenían las conversiones, que eran visitas de página única, sin ni siquiera configurar un funnel, sin ni siquiera configurar un embudo de conversión. Cuando nosotros llegamos a hablar con ellos, a trabajar con ellos y a mostrarles lo que pueden hacer, el mundo de posibilidades que se abren ante los ojos de nuestros clientes son... Ellos piensan que esto es infinito y que esto va a seguir creciendo y que en cierta manera esto los ayuda y los empodera para tomar decisiones más importantes, más poderosas acerca de los objetivos estratégicos de su negocio. Entonces, si el objetivo estratégico es tener más ventas, a través de estas herramientas que antes no conocían y que estaban ahí escondidas a plena vista, pueden tomar muchas mejores decisiones a mediano y largo plazo. La comparación con los años anteriores es una herramienta espectacular que nadie estaba usando. Y eso, o sea, nuestros clientes en general se quedan con la boca abierta y quieren, y el problema es que después quieren más. Y cada vez sale algo nuevo, entonces siempre estamos ofreciendo algo nuevo, pero en el fondo es gracias a que la herramienta nos da mucho de dónde trabajar.
¿Alguna otra consulta? ¿No? Bien, yo creo que vamos cerrando el evento, estamos cansados, ¿cierto? Quiero agradecer nuevamente a Krista, a Stefan, su tiempo, su conocimiento, su dedicación, su simpatía. Estamos muy contentos de haberlos tenido acá y quiero que les demos un gran aplauso para despedirlos. Y también a todos ustedes, muchas gracias por venir, gracias por tener la visión estratégica de proyectar sus negocios o su labor profesional. Y bueno, esperamos que esto se vuelva a repetir el próximo año. Muchas gracias.